Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today my intention is I think it's to be playful, but also to be really curious because I have some things that I want to talk about today that might be helpful, but I feel like they're most helpful if we can be curious about them. And maybe I say that like curious over frustrated. I also just want to side note before I dive into what's been coming in for the recording this week. I went to see Karen Rontowski last night with a friend, and she's a psychic stand-up, I think is what she calls it. And so she does stand-up for the first part of her show, and then she does tarot and psychic readings for the crowd voluntarily. You get to raise your hand and ask questions. And I just have to say, it was such a fun night. And afterwards, you get to meet her and talk to her. And because she's kind enough to stay afterward and allow people to engage with her in that way. And I just said how refreshing it was and what a fun night it was. And she said, "Isn't it great when we can get together or, people who are in service can get together and have it be a more lighthearted and fun evening?" And I just wanted to say, yeah. And especially, or even when, or especially when sometimes the questions are hard, right? And the answers aren't easy to hear. But when you do it with comedy, when you do it with laughter, when you do it with that sort of flavor, there is something about it that is quote unquote easier to receive. And to be in a group of people who understand and who you just makes you feel not so alone. So I didn't even ask a question and I felt that way. I think I find, at least in my work, when there's more than one person in the room, you might be talking directly to one human, but spirit has a message for so many more people in that room than just that one. We can all relate to each other's struggles and, well, maybe not all the struggles of every human, but we can often relate to people that we are sharing a room with. And maybe not everyone in the room, but it was such a lovely experience. And I just feel lighter and brighter and giggly today. So I'm just shout out to Karen Rontowski. If you have a chance to go see her, go do it. Um, okay, so here's what I've been chewing on lately, and that is the meaning that we give things. And I think I'm a human who can really get stuck or hang on tight to meanings, especially if they're coming from wounds. And then I have a very hard time moving through that. And I have an easier time moving through them now because I can bring awareness to it and I can bring objectivity to it and I can bring, I don't know, even neutrality to it and I can bring my higher self to it. But there's still like that wounded piece of me, right? That likes to kind of pipe up and yell. And this is what I want to invite you to today, like welcome to my world, but also like if you have any resonance with anything that I'm saying right now, if anything you're just like, "Oh yeah, I can so relate." Here's something I've been pondering. It was actually shown to me in a class. I'm taking a class and more information on that later at some point, but it's not about the class. It's just about what was shown to me and how it felt. And I find myself really sitting with it and engaging with it. And here's what it looked like. They showed me a slide, like an old-fashioned slide. And what I mean by that is like instead of a photograph, it's like an old-fashioned slide. You put it into a carousel, it projects onto a screen, and it's like a photograph, but it's an old-fashioned slide. So to me, it's almost like that represents the past. And like that snapshot is one instance of that pocket of time. And then there was like this idea or feeling of like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Versus like, it can stir an experience, right? A memory of an experience. And then what meaning are you giving that? Sort of like if that snapshot in time can extrapolate out to a memory for you, which is probably splattered with your conditioning, your programming, your wounds, your experiences, right? And how you show up in the world. And then there's like this. collective truth of what that experience actually was with the whole picture, meaning every single human who was involved in that moment, the divine that was involved in that moment, like the whole entire experience. And I'm not saying they're not all truths, right? So I'm finding myself ponder this idea of this is a snapshot in time. What does that visual representation bring up in me? And then what does it feel like, or does it change, or does it shift if I invite divine into the experience or into the playing of this memory? Because I feel like they're all three different things. There's that one snapshot in time. That photo doesn't lie. It is a snapshot. That is a visual representation of what happened at that time. And then we have the experience that is our memory. Well, our memories, we change our memories. We change our memories to fit our narratives. We change our memories to make us comfortable. We change our memories to like to fill our bias, to align with our story that we've been leaning into. And then we have the actual experience, like the truthful whole picture, everyone's true experience, which we don't always know, right? We don't always know how everyone else is experiencing it. So I'm finding it fascinating. And then it's like, how can we shift these if needed? Like if they support us, that's one thing. But if they're not supportive, just consider the possibility that like maybe this meaning that you've been giving a certain thing could be different. And what does that look like if that's possible? And how can spirit support us in that? And how can our wise observer, how can our highest self support us in supporting ourselves? I don't know. That it feels like this was like deep and chewy today, but I am really curious about it. And I'm noticing within myself as I'm working through just some stuff bubbling up. Um, I don't know that I would go so far as to say full-blown triggers, but definitely some wounds or wounding of things that just don't aren't sitting super great with me right now. And it's a weird thing to say, but I'm loving the experience of exploring that through the lens of, okay, there's a pocket of time that, maybe you have a photograph for, which is just it is what you see, right? And then you have the memory of the experience, which is your conditioning and your programming and your patterns and your narrative that fits how you are shifting it, even if it's only ever so slightly. And then there's the divine experience of the whole entire picture without changing to fit our narrative or to fit our bias. And what does that look like? I'm very curious. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And I think that's all I got for today. And if you have a chance to go see Karen Rontowski, circling back to that, go see her. Such a refreshing evening. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.